live from the Coachella Valley. Time for another hour of the desert scene. Art exhibitions to modernism, music festivals to live theater, big screen, little screen, and very little screen. This is the Culture Corner with Bonnie Gilgallen and Brian Mendoza. Here's Bonnie and Brian on iHub Radio.
And we are back on the Culture Corner, and now I'm thrilled to welcome to the show my buddy, Miss Siobhan Velarde. Hey, girl, how are ya?
Hi, Bonnie. I'm doing well. How are you, sweetheart?
Good. And we are doing a show together tomorrow night, the 10th, and Saturday, the 17th, called Bosom Buddies at Runway. So I'll let you tell people about the show and how it came to be and why you wanted me to do a show with you and all that good stuff.
Well, I think it was all based on that picture that we took together, and I think somebody called us that, which was a fun little spawn of how this started. But it is at Runway. We have the fabulous Mark Caney on piano.
Yes.
And Bonnie, you've just been such an incredible supporter and used to come to our open mic cabaret, which we had a really great time. And I just loved being around you and working with you. So I did one show on St. Patrick's Day, and my first show to venture out, you were my first call. I thought, well, let's Bonnie and I do a show. And the whole time during the pandemic, that's all I could think about was Bonnie and I need to do a show.
Well, that's so great. And I'm thrilled to that. Now, tell people a little more about Runway, because for those who don't know, it's a great little spot in Cathedral City.
It is. It's a terrific little hidden gem, and I think it is actually a restaurant in front of CCBC, which is the resort there in Cathedral City. So it's kind of behind Revivals. It's a little bit hidden, but it is a proper restaurant and bar, and the food is terrific. The owners are just lovely, and they've given me just sort of carte blanche to create events, which is just sort of, it's an entertainer's dream.
Yep.
And I just love bringing my friends in, but it's a nice little spot. And the way that we're very carefully socially distancing, getting back, we've been off for a year, but we will be 12 feet away from all customers. It's actually a nice little velvet rope that surrounds us, that keeps us safe and the customers safe, and they're following all social distancing protocol. And you'll be able to come in. There is a cover. It is a private event. It is $20 pre-sale at Eventbrite. And if you go to Eventbrite and you type in Bosom Buddies, you'll see our picture. And Siobhan Velarde and Bonnie Gilgallen. And then if you don't get them on Eventbrite, then you can purchase them at the door for $30. And that cover is split amongst the performers, and that's how we're raising money. And then people can buy dinner. There'll be a full menu. And the food's terrific at Runway. I don't know if people know about their fried pickles, but
it really is. It's very good. Yeah.
They're really terrific.
So for people
who friendly and warm.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, it's just a friendly and warm atmosphere. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So for people who are not familiar with Siobhan, and if you go out to entertainment in the desert or like music, and if you're not familiar with Siobhan, I don't know what's wrong with you. But anyway, tell people about a little bit about your start as a performer, how you developed the style that you have today as a singer.
Oh, thank you. You know what? I have to give big props to Tommy Rose. I went to an open mic at Toucans about 20 years ago, and I did a few songs, and I'd been singing up in the high desert, which was Victorville at the time, in the tiny little place with my friend Joel Ivins, and another friend moved to Palm Springs, says you have to get down here. I did, and Tommy Rose hired me on the spot and really kind of formed me into my style, because Tommy is so quick-witted, and what I love watching so much about Tommy is his interaction with the audience. And I think that connection is where maybe I excel, and I love to engage with everybody and make it funny and a lot of improv. And I think a lot of people are just afraid of my name, so they don't know how to say it or spell it. And so, you look at it, it looks like Siobhan, but it's not. It's the Irish Siobhan.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's it's sort of my niche, to be cheeky and silly and have a good time. And I think that's what I I love so much about you. I think we're cut from the same cloth there.
And you're very bluesy. It's one of the things I like about you is, I mean, you do a lot of different kind of material, but you really, I think, when you get the bluesy, down home, body kind of chick songs, I think that's one of the things I think you do really well.
That's my favorite. That's where I feel my soul is. I feel that it's really in those, whether it's blues rock or just good old fashioned blues, to just sing from the gut, which is what I do.
Yeah.
So I do.
Now, did you have a lot of formal training, it's either voice or acting along the way?
I did not. I grew up. My father worked in the motion picture industry. He was a production designer, and I always wanted to make film. I always wanted to be a director, and life took a little bit of a different turn. I was a young mom, and went that direction. And I just sort of took a community theater acting class at a community college, and then did a couple of community theater things, and just kind of went from there. Karaoke, and a friend just said, "You've got to come and sing with me," and started a partnership. And it just life takes you in different tangents, and this just happened to be the one I stayed on.
And are you somebody who, I'm always curious about this with singers, are you someone who vocalizes a little bit every day, even if you don't have a show coming up?
No, I'm horrible.
Okay.
Probably why I tend to lose my voice, because I do sing from my gut, and I'll push, and I'm terrible. No, I don't prepare. It's sort of a little joke I have with the audience. I even joke with them. The first couple songs are throwaway, and then we'll get warmed up and into it. Yeah, so I try, and I'm just not disciplined. I'm more disciplined with my cooking.
Okay. And so what I love to ask this question, because I've interviewed a lot of actors, a lot of singers, a lot of performers over the years. When you go see somebody else, and I know we've been in a pandemic, and you probably haven't done it much lately, but in the past, when you've had a night off, or when you've gone to see particularly another singer, what do you look for? What do you want to see from them to be entertained?
What a great question. You know what? I'm really drawn to the people that make me feel something. They don't necessarily have to be, completely pitch perfect. And I mean, I'm in awe of people that have such great control of their voices and can do a plethora of things. I love to see diversity, but I love the people that make me feel something. Like Judy Garland, to me, was the quintessential in the way that when she sang, you felt every word.
Yeah.
And it wasn't always pretty, but you certainly felt it. She moved you. So I was raised by an artist, so I think if art moves me, that's what I'm drawn to. And singing and musicians, all of that, it's all just a beautiful art form. And I like to feel, whether it's happy or silly. And I'm also in awe of comedians.
Yeah. No, she's you are a funny chick. How do you pick songs for yourself? How do you choose songs that you think that you want to do that'll show you off well?
And I don't think I'm always great at that. I think I know my niche, and I go, okay, so many of them have been people that have brought them to me and said, learn this song. And I will say, I work for PS Underground a lot. And our creator, Michael Feetsum, will have a concept, and then 9 times out of 10, he'll say, this is the song I really want you to learn. And then, in the beginning, I'm, oh, gosh, I don't want to do this. Ends up being one of my favorites. So a lot of the material is that. Some is just music or musicians that I love, and I sang the tracks for so long that it's so nice to have a piano player where I can, hey, I want to do this song. And what's so terrific about Mark Caney is Mark can jump from style to style with me.
Yeah.
He can do a great show tune, and then nobody plays blues like Mark.
Yeah.
And I really, really love that. And I think in our show, we're going to show a nice spectrum of all different types of music, going from pop to blues to standard,
little
to
Broadway,
a little everything. And that's what excites me about you. It's like Bonnie can do a little everything, and that's fun. You're not in a box. Yeah.
So, what do you ever write? Have you ever written songs?
You know what? It's been years. I've written lyrics to songs, and I play melodies in my head, but I've never actually sat down. I don't read music. so my son, neither one of my kids, they don't read music either, but they're both musicians. But my son will sort of fiddle around on the piano every now and then, and I'll be in my room singing along, making up a song, but nothing that I've ever used or put down. I think I get too distracted.
And what's other than this fabulous show we're doing the 10th and the 17th, what's on your bucket list? What's on your bucket list? Is there a project or maybe a Broadway role or something that you've always wanted to do that you haven't done yet, performing-wise?
I love this question. Yes. I would love to do Chicago. I mean, there's Chicago, there's Cabaret, and all of those things. And I know I'm, on the older side, but there's still the dreams to do all of those things. But I will say my dream role in life isn't even musical. I would love to do Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf and play Martha.
Wow,
yeah. It's just, that to me is the quintessential role.
Yeah, that's a heck of a part. Yeah, I have a friend of mine, Mary Wright, who's the director, and I met her after she had done this. She directed that years and years and years ago, and it was the old Top Hat Playhouse. Before it's gone now, long since gone. But she directed that, and I didn't get to see it. I didn't know her then, but I heard it was fab. That's a heck of a role. Yeah, heck of a role.
I would love to. I would even be happy to direct. I used to direct. I had a community theater players group, and I directed a lot of shows, and I was in a lot of them as well. And I love directing. I love creating. I think in my next phase in Palm Springs, although I love being in shows, I maybe want to just graduate to performing every now and then, but just creating shows, being in them and having some capacity, but really just creating vehicles of group things.
Yeah.
We have some exciting things that I'm going to be doing with Desert Rose Playhouse as well. That will be announcing relatively soon. So very exciting stuff.
What kind of director are you? Are you are you a really, really hands-on director? Are you somebody? I know I've had a lot of directors say casting is 90% of the thing, and then you let them go. You let them go.
It really is. You know what? I think a director, and I think a lot of people sometimes lose that. Even I do too. I'm guilty of that, where we have to step back and go, okay, it is the director's vision, and let's do that. And let me be the tool to help you. But I love the team effort. I love if I say, I really want you to do it this way, and somebody suggests, well, let me try it this way and see what you think. And then it might spawn something absolutely new. So I'm always open to new things, and I love that. And I like being kicked back, and I want things to be of ease, but to be a joy. But a collaboration is just everything to me.
Well, Siobhan Velarde and myself with Mark Caney, it's called Bosom Buddies. It's at Runway, tomorrow, Saturday, April 10th, and the 17th, show starts at 7. Come early and come in 6 and sit down and get your dinner. You can get tickets on Eventbrite, $20 pre-sale, $30 at the door. It's at Runway in Cathedral City. It's going to be a really, really, really fun show. I hope everybody comes out to see it. And any rituals you have before showtime? Do you say a prayer? Do you do anything special?
I go in the bathroom and I do a lot of hey screams.
Okay. Seriously?
I probably scare people. I really do. You know why? One of my favorite singers, Beth Hart, I heard her do it. I got to see her a lot live, and she would go in the bathroom and say she was one of the greatest voices I've ever heard. And that kind of became my thing.
So you go in the bathroom and scream, hey. You just do that?
I scream, hey, just really over and over again.
Okay, I'm going to have to try it. All right, darling, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm looking so forward to it. Siobhan Velarde. Come see us, Bosom Buddies. All right, we'll be back.
Can't wait.
We'll be back with more on the Culture Corner in just a moment.
The curtain rises on local and regional arts and entertainment. From music to theater, films to fine art, it's the Culture Corner. Get connected. Call 760-544-TALK. That's 760-544-8255. Here's Bonnie and Brian on iHub Radio.
Hey, welcome back to the Culture Corner. Now we're going to talk about the vaccine and how it's hitting up TikTok in this.
I had not heard about any of this. I think it's great.
So what happened on TikTok is that this one TikToker whose name is I Drink Your Milkshake, and she has gotten a lot of popularity on TikTok because she kind of threw in a very random joke in which only hot people get the Pfizer vaccine.
Well, I beg to differ. I got Moderna, and I think I'm kind of hot. So,
Oh, Bonnie, I was gonna say that it was one of those things where she goes on in the video to say, if you got Moderna, then I don't know what to tell you, Queen. This message is brought to you by Pfizer gang. And she said that a lot. And when you look at it, there's a lot of like vaccine selfies where people are taking videos of themselves with the Band-Aid, with their card.
Now, what does it say about Moderna, though? They have their own little shtick, right?
Well, yeah, like they're doing their own thing where it's like, I bet, kind of like that, where they say like, you know, Moderna is for the real homies or something like that.
Okay.
For the authentic people. And they've been doing this thing where like Pfizer and Moderna and Johnson & Johnson, in this case, AstraZeneca and Sputnik are kind of like mocked as being if you got those vaccines, then we all agree that those are not the ones we want. But these three, the Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and Pfizer, because these are the three most common in the United States, they're kind of doing this thing where they're like, they call themselves like Pfizer gang, Moderna gang, Johnson & Johnson, or Janssen, I think that's what they call it. And the idea is that it's kind of like in Harry Potter when they pick the different houses where it's like, I'm team this and all my friends are team that. And it's supposed to be sort of like a way for us to raise awareness about taking the vaccine without making it sort of dull. It's to get people invested in it. You know what I mean? Like, get vaccinated and you get to be part of this team. And it's just a fun way to do it. And the woman who started the trend with I Drink Your Milkshake, she actually said that she wanted to started this trend. Her name is Lena Daniels because she felt that it was just fun. It was like a rivalry between sports team, and also because she felt that she wanted to convince people her age and her parents
to get vaccinated.
Great
way to do it.
And and she said that the algorithm for TikTok is slowly making its way to people who get the vaccine. So if someone talks about the vaccine or you're going to post about your vaccine, that video will go to you. So you will see that video. And I honestly think it's great. I mean, honestly, I'd rather have this be something, if TikTok's going to exist, that it exists for a good purpose. And I think that it is very important. And it's also possible that when you see these videos that there is like a link in a lot of these videos, like an ad link that tells you, hey, learn more about the Pfizer vaccine or the Moderna vaccine or the AstraZeneca vaccine. So it's a great way not only to be part of a group of people, but also just to have fun and get informed.
I mean, because there hasn't been much fun associated with this virus. I mean, there hasn't been a lot of fun. So it's nice to have, okay, let's get vaccinated. This is a positive thing. And let's throw some fun in here. I think some people were starving for fun, you know? And
I think it's one of those things where, like, I think some people may say, like, kind of scoff it off a little bit. And I know that it's one of those stories where it's like, it's actually kind of fun to hear young people actually sort of take the vaccine seriously, but also just have fun
in a fun way. Yeah.
In a fun way where it doesn't feel like, oh, we have to always, doom
and gloom.
Yeah. And the thing, and to move on to something a little less happy, Cher. Now, Cher did some soul searching where she had to give an apology because, as many of us know, the George Floyd trials are coming out. Yeah. And it is, I have seen it. It's difficult to watch. It is, very difficult, but not to get too much into it. But Cher actually had a tweet where she said that she actually said, maybe if I had been there, I could have helped.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people understood what she was saying, but it was one of those.
It came across the wrong way.
It did. And some people say it kind of comes into this white savior complex thing where it's like
white privilege. Well, I could have ridden in and saved the day, and I'm a celebrity, so everyone would have listened to me or whatever. Yeah.
And in reality, I think, look, I would tell Cher, like, it's not. I get where your heart's at, but the fact is, a man died.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you could have done because honestly, it would have
They
happened.
weren't letting the woman who was an EMT or a firefighter do anything, so I don't think they would have let her do anything either.
Yeah, and the thing is, at least she came out with an apology. So it's funny because like at this point, we might as well call it Apology of the Week segment.
Exactly, because there's always somebody who needs to make one. Yeah.
And she did say she's doing some soul searching and that it's been hard on her to like deal with this. And I personally, for me, I thought it was a bad tweet. I would have said something like, you know, my heart breaks for this, and I wish I wasn't. Like, it's okay to feel like you wish you could have done something, but to say it like, if I was there, like you.
No, it was worded badly. Yeah.
And in general, like, I just think that the idea is to get justice. Like, what can you do to get justice rather than hypothetically think of yourself as a hero in an instance where you could have not been one.
Right. Absolutely. But the apology is smart. It's good for her. All right. We're going to be back with one of my favorite people ever, Ruta Lee, in just a bit on the Culture Corner.
You're listening to Bonnie Gilgallen and Brian Mendoza, talking arts and entertainment on iHub Radio's The Culture Corner. Live from the desert cities of Southern California, here's Brian and Bonnie.
And we are back on the Culture Corner, and now we're joined by one of my favorite people on the planet, Miss Ruta Lee, who has a new book out. Hi, Ruta, how are you?
Oh, my bonbon of the desert. I just adore you too, sweetheart.
Oh,
I'm so happy to be with you on this glorious day we're having.
Yay. So there's so much to talk about, but we'll go backwards in a minute. But first, you have a new book out, right?
I am so excited about this. I mean, now besides actress, singer, dancer, salesperson, philanthropist, socialite, now we can add author. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And my book is so aptly titled because it comes from the bottom of my heart. Consider your ass kissed.
Yes.
I've used that expression for years, and George Pinocchio, whom you know is the red carpet man for ABC television, said to me years ago, Ruta, if you ever do a book, that should be the title of your book. And he's so right. And I'm so proud to have actually put my fanny into a chair and done this. It's a miracle. And we're going to have a book signing, believe it or not, at Just Fabulous. I don't know the date yet, but I'm hoping that all of my Palm Springs friends will either do it online or go to Barnes & Noble. More important, go to Just Fabulous and come and say hello in person and say hello to the boys that run that fabulous little shop.
Excellent. By the way, I ordered the book. It's on the way. I don't have it yet, but it's on the way. So,
Bonnie, do you know that I am so thrilled to say this, that the beautiful Amazon has said that it is book number 2 in line for orders. Isn't that fabulous?
Wow. That's, yes. Now,
I'm so excited. I thought, who's going to remember an old broad like me? You know, it's just great.
Everybody. Now, so this is basically an autobiography, sort of your life story for the most part?
Not really my life story. Just wonderful incidents and events from my life that have colored my life and made it so wonderfully beautiful. I'm so blessed in so many ways. And one of them is having a good friend like you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, let's go back for people who don't know. So your dad was a Lithuanian tailor. You're at Hollywood High, and you got a job at the Grauman's Chinese Theater, an usherette. You went up the chain in command and then got fired. Tell me about that.
Well, I've always been lousy in math, but I loved being an usherette, and some of our listeners may not remember what an usherette is. But, movie theaters, movie palaces had people run you down to your seat with a flashlight so that you didn't stumble and trip. And I could stand at the top of the aisle and watch all the movie queens that I wanted to be, the Mitzi Gaynors, the June Havers, the Betty Grabels, and I just thrived on it. Now I got promoted to Candy Girl, and I told you I was lousy in math, but I could deal with those numbers because they were 10 cents, 15 cents, 50 cents, they were easy numbers to deal with.
Yeah.
Then one night, the cashier got sick, and I got promoted to cashier, and I said, I can't do this. They said, yes, you can. All you do, you see, their tickets were like $1.98 or $2.65 or something. And you just punch in the number of tickets at that price and then punch in the amount they gave you, and it'll give you the right change. Well, it gave the right change, all right out $40 short that night.
Oops.
And I got fired.
Oh, dear.
And I said, I didn't steal the money. You just don't know. The machine made me do it. And fade out, fade in, I got fired, and I said I'd be back, and my handprints would be in the lobby, one of these days. And guess where my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame is?
It's right in front of there.
Right in front of the box office.
That is great. That's great. Now you were assigned. You were the youngest of the 7 brides for 7 brothers. Now was that your first movie? Very first movie? My
very first movie, and my God, what an auspicious movie. And, Bonnie, it's so amazing how many generations have come and gone with that movie as a centerpiece. It's held up so well for so many years. I think we're into our 5th generation by now.
Wow. And was that intimidating at all for you, or is it just a blast all the way through?
Oh, honey, it wasn't intimidating. I was too young and too stupid to realize how important it was, And there I was working with some of the best dancers in America, and wow, and I was keeping up with them as best I knew how, So I adored that. It made a very, very big difference in my life. Of course, one of our local members, one of our gentry, Mr. Frank Sinatra, made an important change in my life, too, when I got to be leading lady to Mr. Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis and Peter Lawford and Joey Bishop and the Crosby Boys.
Wow.
That wasn't all bad, and that was our friend and neighbor Frank Sinatra. Thank you, God.
Yeah, and you've been around. You've done a lot of musicals: Dolly, Annie, Peter Pan, Mame, Irene, Nellie, lots of Women of the Year, Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. I played the Madam at a local production of that show here in the desert, which was great fun.
And I bet you were wonderful because everything I've ever seen you in, I thought you were wonderful.
You're so sweet, and lots of TV. I mean, lots and lots and lots of TV.
At least 2,500 guest starring roles on television. It's been a fabulous career. Bonnie, I've never reached fabulous superstardom. But on the other hand, I have worked all of my life. If it wasn't movies, then it was television. If it wasn't television, it was theater all around the country. And the most lucrative job I ever had was the 5 years that I had on Home Shopping Network.
Really? Okay.
So that goes to show you. And so I write about all of these things and then tidbits, and I have a little bit of kind of gossip about everybody. A little bit of gossip never hurt anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's all in the book, and I'm just so hoping that people will come to see me and say hi when I'm at the Just Fabulous. I don't know how we're going to do all of this COVID-wise, but hopefully we're getting past it all, and pretty soon we'll be able to hug.
Yeah, I hope everyone just stays smart about it. I wanted to mention something else, too, and I hope, is it the Thalians? Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you are, darling.
And
yes, you are.
Talk about that a little bit.
Well, the Thalians was a group of young Hollywood people that got tired of being called hard-drinking, pot-smoking asses that had nothing to contribute. And they said, we get together and sing around the piano and have drinks and whatnot. Why don't we put something together, sell tickets? And that's how the Thalians was born. And we have raised money by honoring the most wonderful people in our business that dazzled us not only with their performances on screen or stage, but who dazzled us with their performances philanthropically as well. And we've honored everybody from Lucille Ball through Frank Sinatra, through Dean Martin, through Sammy Davis, through, you name it. They were honored. Our last honoree, God bless him, was Clint Eastwood. So we've raised a lot of money, and we've always been Hollywood for mental health. But now we have switched from our pediatric through geriatric service and care to focusing on returning veterans.
Wow.
Bonnie, these are the young men and women that do so much and lay their lives on the table every day for our country, and yet they come back home injured and maimed and fall through the cracks sometimes.
Yeah.
So we've teamed up with UCLA and Operation Mend. Operation Mend heals the broken and fractured bodies of these beautiful young people, and we Thalians are trying to heal the fractured and broken minds and spirit of our returning veterans.
Good for you.
They deserve the best America has to offer, and damn it, we've got to do for them. So, of course, I will beg any of our friends and neighbors here in the beautiful desert that we live in, if they have a few extra bucks, go to the Thalians, THALIANS.org, and you'll read all about us, and whether it's $5 or $50 or $50,000, it will be well used taking care of our returning veterans and their families in crisis.
That's great. Good for you. How often are you here in the desert? I know you travel all over the place.
I'm trying to get here a little more. I actually spent a whole week here a week ago, and I'm going to spend another week here this time. And usually it's just the weekend or whatever and then back again. But COVID has been good to me in that way, is that I'm not traveling as much. I'm home now, and home includes a home in L.A. and my beautiful little house here in Palm Springs, and I adore the desert.
Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to see if we can get this story in. So this is an interesting story. You made international headlines when you convinced Khrushchev to release your 90-year-old grandmother from the Soviet Union. Tell us about that.
Oh, that's a long story, and I dedicate a chapter in my book to it, but now I've decided that I'm going to do the full book. It deserves it, because we're talking about a 90-year-old lady who, along with her husband, were deported to Siberia. Why? Who knows? They weren't the intelligentsia or the cognoscenti. They were farm folk. Hell, they had a cow. That was the richest thing they had.
Yeah.
And off they went to Siberia. My grandfather's legs were frozen on the cattle car that they were being deported on. And when they took off his boots, the flesh came off with them. He had gangrene.
Oh.
My grandmother never knew, because she was sent on to the next stop in Siberia. Eventually, they were permitted to leave Siberia or stay, depending on what they had accomplished there. She had literally hitchhiked across Siberia to find another daughter of hers, and my mother found them in Siberia through the Red Cross, and that's how we got in touch. Eventually, they went back to Lithuania. My aunt wrote a letter saying thank you for all the things that we had sent in packages and the clothes for her to be laid out in. That was very important to her. And we got a letter. My mother got a letter 6 weeks or so after it was sent out of Lithuania, thanking us for all the things that we had sent that they sustained themselves with, and that we didn't know if she was alive or dead, because it took so long for a letter to get through, and of course it was censored. And so I called Khrushchev that night. The more wine my friends poured, the more obvious it became that I should pick up the damn phone and call Khrushchev, which I did. And I said, I want to talk to the Premier Khrushchev, the Moscow, the Kremlin, Moscow, USSR.
Yeah.
And the operator said, how do you spell Khrushchev? Well, hell, who the hell knew how to do that? Long story short, I connected after about 6 hours of back and forth from the Russian operator to the American operator with an operator said, "Mr. Khrushchev, no speak it English. You speak it interpreter, Mr. Khrushchev." Well, I remembered there was a very attractive young man that traveled with Khrushchev when he was banging his shoe on the podiums, and saying very rude things in Russian.
Yeah.
But the interpreter translated it and made it palatable to our Victorian ears. And my father used to laugh, and I said, "Okay, I'll talk to him." So we talked, and he said, "Miss Lee, we know all about you from Hollywood. We see your movies here. What can I do for you?" And I said, "I want to come to the Soviet Union, and I want to bring my mother and father, and I want to go to Lithuania."
And you did. And I shouldn't have asked you that question because I know we're running out of time, but it's in the book. It's in the book. Get the book.
It's in the book, and you can read all about it. No problem. And thank you for sharing your audience with me, honey.
Thank you, sweetie.
I'm so pleased.
Consider your ass kissed.
Seeing you perform this week.
Yes, yay. Consider your ass kissed. Rhoda Lee, get it. Order the book. Thank you. I love you. We'll see you at the show. Thank you.
I love you. You bet, my darling friend. Bye
all right.
for now.
Thanks, sweetie. All right. Culture Corner. We'll be back with more in just a bit.
You're listening to Bonnie Gilgallen and Brian Mendoza, talking arts and entertainment on iHub Radio's The Culture Corner. Here are Bonnie and Brian.
On this segment of The Culture Corner, we're going to talk about, first off, we're going to start off with Dave Pinkley. Now, Dave Pinkley is very famous for writing the Captain Underpants books, which is just a series.
Which I think is hilarious name in and of itself. But
it's a series of books about children who basically discover this superhero who's just in his underpants the whole time, and he fights and saves the day and all that. And it's one of those, like, it's both very sincerely a superhero story, but also it's satire too.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those books that surprisingly gets often put into the lists of challenge books because a couple of weeks ago we had a professor on who actually talked about this, and she said that the reason why it gets on there so much is because the kids in the book are disobedient, and so a lot of schools don't really like that type of like literature for their kids. But surprisingly, they have never been pulled off the shelves from anywhere. But now he personally has decided to pull off a spin-off for the series, The Adventures of Ook and Glook, Kung Fu Cavemen from the Future. Now, the book itself, for the most part, most people didn't really receive controversy when it came out. Like, it's one of those things where people, just sort of took it as a children's book and kind of went their own way about it. Now, Dave Pinkley himself on his YouTube channel said that him and Scholastic are going to remove the book from print on their own fruition because he felt that he pushed a lot of reductive, harmful stereotypes about Asian people. And because the story centered on Kung Fu, he felt that he perpetuated the idea of the Asian.
Now is not the time because there's so much of that floating around, that animosity, yeah.
And he did this on March 25th, which I think was more or less around the time that the Atlanta shooting was happening. And he said that he will be donating all the profits that he's made from the book to children in underserved communities, organizations that promote diversity in children's books and publishing, and organizations designed to stop Asian hatred. And what I got to say is good for you, honestly, because I think that when it comes to this, authors, singers have every right to.
It's their own material. They can do whatever they want with it. And
it's one of those things where I think, when I look back at older episodes of the Flicks and Picture I used to do for here, there would be some episodes I would take out. I sit back and I think the first episode, erase it, please. Don't ever have that ever again.
And you have the right to do that because it's you. It's representing you. It's your talent. It's your,
And it's interesting because even it happens in little ways. Like on SNL, there was a skit they used to do called. They have skits that would air on West Coast and the East Coast, and they would have different deliveries, or maybe on one skit for the West Coast or I think we're in the West Coast, right? Or we're in the West Coast. I was going to say
Yeah.
in the East Coast.
I think the last I looked, I think
well,
so.
when they're doing it in New York, they would have maybe someone would accidentally slip up on a cuss word.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to here, we hear a much more refined, a little less, a little bit more prepared version of it.
Yeah.
So no matter what you think about it, there are ways that artists will change up their work for different audiences, or they might take away something. Like on SNL, when you go on Hulu and you watch an old SNL clip, you're not going to see Sinead O'Connor ripping up the
Picture of the Pope. Yeah.
picture of the Pope, or you're not going to see some old skits because, well, it's their right to do it, and that's what I think. I think so.
Yeah, yeah, and people need to just cool out. And here's everyone talks about cancel culture. You're allowed to cancel yourself. And it's not canceling. It's rethinking something from the perspective of that the current times and what the current social atmosphere is, and the animosity and the all the tension that's going on in the world today. You, as a writer, an artist, or whatever it is, have the perfect right to pull back something that you created if you feel it's not appropriate or not representative of who you are now. It's not someone else canceling you. So people need to just chill out.
No, I definitely agree with that. And also, I think people also have this mistaken idea that the culture is forcing like someone like Dave Pinkley, that maybe no one's saying it directly. I think what Dave Pinkley probably saw was, wow, there's a lot of hostility against Asian Americans, and just maybe I should probably rethink my work where I talked about
because I don't want to contribute to that. Yeah.
And I think that is very reasonable for any writer to do. And I think honestly it comes with maturity. I think if Stephen King did it and the Dr. Seuss Foundation did it, Dave Pinkley's doing it, I think that there's a lot of authors who will go back at their work and realize, well, maybe I could have done better. Like, I was reading up a story about an author who has always said they regretted the way they wrote. Oh, Ursula K. Le Guin. She actually was a famous science fiction writer. She has always said before she died that she regretted the way she wrote women. She said, I wish I wrote women as the lead instead of like a supporting character or a maid, because for me, that's the type of image I took in when I was writing these books as a woman, and now I regret it. And I think it's very important for writers to retrospectively look back at their work and
absolutely
change things if they want.
It reminds me of, there's so many good ones, but one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes is, when you know better, you do better. And that's true of all of us, no matter what it is. When you did what you knew to do at the time, and we all hopefully learn and grow and educate ourselves and become and evolve. And so when you evolve, then you do what's right then.
I certainly agree with that, because like for me, it's like I look back at some of my Facebook posts from the last couple years, and I bet I think you have Facebook memories too, where you look back and you're like, I really
wish I hadn't said that. Yes, absolutely.
And some people have said to me that, why do I censor some of my more older posts? Because I say, because it's published, and I don't want that to be the message I put out. Like, you never know, because what you put out on the internet or in the publishing world never goes away. And if you have a right to go back and correct something, feel free. And also, I wanted to end the show on a pretty positive story. An 8-year-old boy named Jackson Dempsey. He actually saved his little sister. He's 8 years old. He saved his little sister, who was 20 months old, from choking from a chicken nugget, after he actually saw John Cena doing the Heimlich maneuver over on Nickelodeon on a show called The Substitute, where they do like it's where celebrities go on to pretend to be like substitute teachers, and he actually demonstrated it on a dummy. And so Jackson remembered that and applied it to save his little sister.
And how old is Jackson?
Jackson is 8 years old, and he saved his 20-month-old.
God bless him. That's
month-old.
Good for him. That's great. That is fabulous.
And it's one of those things where, like, Nickelodeon even responded saying that everyone in Nickelodeon is proud of Jackson and his heroic actions, and we are honored to be part of such a remarkable story of good news and courage. Yay for Jackson and Leela. And oh my
that's
God.
Great. That is so great.
It's always, we always hear about all these negative stories.
We gotta hear stuff like that sometimes.
It's beautiful, because to me it's like, you never know what you put out there. Like, if you know something and you put it out there, like CPR, you know what? You never know what could happen. And Nickelodeon just put this on a prank show, and it saved a little girl's life.
Yeah, it's great.
Wonderful.
Thanks for that story, Brian. That was great. I'd love to know. Thank you so much to Chella, to Fern, to Siobhan, to Ruta Lee. We love you guys. It was a great show, great guests. And thanks for ending on that happy note. We like that. All right. We'll see you next week on the Culture Corner. Stay safe.
Stay safe and have a good time and get vaccinated. Get vaccinated.